G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. I'm here to talk to you this time about whether or not financial sustainability for local government in Australia is in peril. And look, my answer is yes. It's not everywhere, and this is the important thing to note. Not every local government in Australia is under extreme fiscal stress. But certainly your rural local governments, your remote ones, and local governments in desirable locations for retirement, such as the ones on the seaside, are under an incredible amount of stress at present. It is a national issue and we need to have a national response. What worries me is that most regulators are largely unaware of how big this problem is. How many local governments are teetering on the edge of a financial abyss? It wouldn't surprise me, as I said in an ABC interview the other day, it wouldn't surprise me to turn on the computer tomorrow morning and find in the state of New South Wales alone, half a dozen local governments had run out of money. It wouldn't surprise me. Nationwide, it wouldn't surprise me to find 15, 20 councils falling over any time. And of course, all this has been made so much worse by COVID and the public policy responses to COVID. What's really concerning is that the performance monitoring systems that are in place in every state are completely inadequate and have demonstrated that they will fail to find or give us an advance warning of a problem. What has typically happened is a council runs out of funds and then the next financial year we finally find that our financial sustainability metrics are telling us that there's a problem when it's too late. So if you are a councillor or if you are a local government executive, do not rely on those financial ratios. A lot of you have to report in financial statements or report to regulators. Do not rely on them. Do not get a false sense of comfort from those meeting those benchmarks. Most of the benchmarks are completely arbitrary. They're based on no evidence at all. And a lot of the ratios are just inappropriate for government. Now, this is the fact that most councils have been surprised when they've run out of money. It's come as a big surprise. A few weeks before D-Day, there's been an emergency meeting, the councillors have been called in, they've been given a brief about the problem. It's too late at that stage. Anyone involved in local government, councillor, executives, must be aware of their financial position. They must be keeping a very close eye on that all-important unrestricted cash, and they must be doing that on a weekly basis. They must be making all decisions under an assumption that financial sustainability is in threat. There's very few councils, the ones in the capital cities perhaps, that don't have to worry about financial sustainability. And the effects of COVID have been largely neglected. A lot of local governments have tried to do the right thing, but it's put their financial sustainability in peril. A lot of local governments have voted to take on debt to build new infrastructure to try to stimulate the economy, have voted to give relief for fees and taxation, even when it hasn't been asked for by their residents. And they're all great and admirable things in a bad situation. But I wonder how many have their eye on the long-term financial sustainability implications of this. I wonder how many councils think that it's all over and that they've survived. But COVID's not all over, and the public policy responses to COVID aren't all over. We need to be extremely careful at this time to ensure that we can survive if there is another lockdown, if there is another hit to revenue. And I'm quite certain that there's a number of councils that can't say with any certainty that they can indeed survive. Now, if this video is helpful, you need to do two things to help me. I'm trying to give you our information for free. Good, expert, independent advice. And I believe it is helpful. People are watching these videos. I'm getting lots of calls to appear on radio and television as a result of these videos. Okay, you need to do something in return for me. You need to do two things. One is you need to subscribe. I need to show my workplace that the time I'm investing in these videos is worthwhile, and I can only do that with subscriber numbers. So hit that subscribe button for me. The second thing you need to do is share this video and share this link with other people in local governments. You need to help me to reach out to the people that need to know. Now, I've actually asked the peak bodies in most of the states to send a link out to their members. They've decided not to. They seem to think I'm a competitor, even though I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to help. So if they're not going to help, I need each one of you to help me. Each one of you knows someone else in a local government elsewhere. Please help me to help others. Flick this link on and subscribe. So there's a lot of contributing factors to the situation we find ourselves in. Obviously COVID. But in addition, amalgamations. Now, I've produced research recently which shows beyond doubt that the New South Wales amalgamations were a fiscal disaster. I've also produced research which is about to get accepted in the world's best local government journal, which shows that the Queensland amalgamations 2007-8 were a disaster. We need at some stage to do a thorough investigation of amalgamation as a policy and understand that these things aren't helping the financial sustainability mess. And in fact, I want to do that research, and if I could get the funds to do it, I would do it, and then we would have an authoritative source to go to every time, and that would be the end of these careless amalgamations that have inflicted so much damage on communities. So that's something I want to do in the future. We've also got the problem of declining populations, particularly in the rural areas and the remote areas. And that's been made worse in some states, such as New South Wales, with their new rate capping methodology, which imputes population growth into the rate cap that's approved. Obviously, the communities most at risk, the rural and remote communities, are going to be most disadvantaged, and a lot of them are just going to be pushed off the edge. We have poor grant methodology. I'm talking here about the financial assistance grants, the FAGs. They're a complete and utter chaotic mess. They don't even reflect the legislation. We've known this for many years. I've published many papers in the best journals in the world showing this beyond dispute, and I also know how to fix it. So if you know someone in the Local Government Grants Commission or the Federal Government Commonwealth Grants Commission that oversees the whole process, if you're a politician or decision maker, come and talk to me. We've got to fix it, or we're going to have more local governments fail. It's as simple as that. And it's not that hard to fix it for someone who is a skilled econometrician. We have poor regulatory intervention all the time, not just the amalgamations, introduction of rate capping and introduction of emergency levies and delay to elections. All these things are contributing to the impending disaster. I don't think people realise a few councils toppling over, we can live with it. When quite a few start to topple over, because the bailouts are often done through grants, it's going to set up a domino effect because all other councils are going to get less revenue. And we may not be able to live with it. Poorly calculated rate caps. You've already heard me speak about the New South Wales ones. The Victoria ones are better, but they're still not ideal, and both methodologies need to be ideal if we're not going to have councils topple over. Gaps in financial education. I'm talking here about educational counsellors, education of executives, and education of the community. It's all got to be addressed, and this channel plays an important role in doing so. I'm giving freely of my time, and I'm grateful that UTS is willing to allow me to give some of my time to help in this education process, but much more needs to be done. And fiscal illusion. What is fiscal illusion? It's when your community doesn't understand how bad the financial predicament is. They don't understand the full cost of the goods and services they're consuming, and as a result they consume too much and demand too much, and councils go broke. I've done other videos on how to price things correctly. And incidentally, all these things are covered in my new book, Saving Local Government. Comes out next year. I get nothing for selling the book. Don't think that I'm trying to make money here. I'm just trying to get good information in the hands of people as part of that community, council and executive education effort that we need to do to fix this really serious threat. I'm losing sleep over it. You ought to be if you're in local government land. If you're not, I suggest you have a really good look at your financial statements. We need to fix this problem. And how do we do it? We get real experts involved, providing really expert advice. In the past, lots of state governments have gone to so-called experts that didn't have relevant expertise. They could have gone to people like Professor Brian Dollery, myself, Associate Professor Michael Court, people overseas that I work with, but instead they went to people that didn't have the expertise that they claimed they had. And those people have made recommendations that haven't helped the problem. In fact, they've made the problem worse. We need to stop dealing with pretend experts and start getting real experts in that have ideas about how to fix it, ideas that are backed up by scholarly evidence that we can actually rely on, so that we know that we will make things better and not make things worse, which is what we've been doing. We need better education for all stakeholders. This is what this channel is all about. Please help me. Send it out, subscribe, send these links out. We need grant reform, urgently needed. It's something that I can help with. We just need the right decision makers to get in contact. We can fix the problem. We can avoid a lot of local governments essentially going insolvent. And we need a comprehensive review of these amalgamations and all the other policy options. This is a problem. We've been so fixated on amalgamations for so many years, we've forgotten about all the other things that we could do to improve things. Things that I've done research on, things that Professor Brian Dollery's done research on. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here, but we are the leaders in the world. This small group of scholars, Brian Dollery, myself, Michael Court. We work for universities abroad. I work for universities overseas because we are the leaders in the world. And yet our authorities here in Australia continue to ignore us and continue to get help from non-experts and commercial consultants who are just interested in the money and quite content to make a mess, quite content to just give their opinion based on no facts or evidence at all. And this needs to stop, or we're going to have serious implications at a nationwide level. So all these things are covered in Saving Local Government. It's available very shortly from Springer. Get yourself a copy. Highly recommended. I'd love to see every council with a copy. I'd love to see every decision maker with a copy. If I could afford to do so, I would buy you a copy, but I can't. So thank you very much for your time. If you found this helpful, I can't overemphasize how much I need your help to help others. So please subscribe. Please send the link on. Thank you very much. Goodbye.